Hello, everybody. Welcome to the CNC with Dave show. This is a brand new show, just starting. We're going to dedicate this whole discussion to hobby CNC stuff. And I've got some good people on the panel here. A lot of, let's see, I think pretty much everybody's got a CNC except for Russ Meadows. We're working on him still. But we'll go down through the panel here and let everybody introduce themselves. Braxton, you want to go first, buddy?
Sure, just setting up some lights so you guys can see me. But thanks for having me on. I appreciate it. I'm new to the CNC world. I just got a little X-Carve, and so far I've been loving it, and I'm excited to learn more about it. You can find me on YouTube under my name, Braxton Wirthlin, or braxtonwirthlin.com.
All right, very good. And next, how about you, Juan? I see you're next in line here, at least on my screen. You're still muted, Juan. There you go.
My name is Juan Lopez, and I'm new to as far as any of this, but I've been a CNC machinist for a while, and I just purchased me a GarageWorks CNC, and I'm gonna try to start a new channel, Woodcraft One. So if you can give me a visit every now and then, I'd appreciate it.
Okay, yeah, I was checking out your channel the other day, and I figure any day now you'll be starting to put videos up there, because I know you put a lot of stuff on Facebook, and
definitely.
I always like checking that out, obviously. But okay, next in line here, I've got I don't know, this is maybe like your first hangout ever, Mark, or?
Oh no, it's well, yeah, this is my first time live on anything.
Okay.
I'm Mark Lindsay. No, I'm not that guy that used to sing with Paul Revere and the Raiders. But I'm new to CNC, but not new to woodworking. Folks probably know me most from YouTube comments, or I'm also a wannabe content creator, but I'm most active on Facebook in about 10 or 15 different guitar forums, cigar box guitar forums, woodworking forums, CNC forums, that kind of thing. So I'm around.
Okay, and that's your CNC right there behind you?
Oh yeah, that's my Sidewinder CNC that I got from this fella online. Posted some plans last year, and I downloaded them and built the structure over the course of about a weekend, and I love it. I love it.
Okay, awesome, awesome. Okay, well, we'll talk more about that here in a minute, I'm sure. But next in line, we've got Melinda. You want to unmute yourself and say a little something about yourself?
Well, I'm Melinda Davies. I'm a hobbyist. I've had my CNC better than 5 years now. It's a Sidewinder CNC, one of Dave's original ones. I love it. I've enjoyed working with it. It never seems to be enough. I never get enough time working out in the shop, but I keep trying. Someday I'll be a YouTube creator, but not yet.
Yeah, she's got a lot of great stuff. In fact, one of the videos I did was a tour of her shop. So if you haven't seen that, check it out. She's got an awesome shop and does some amazing photo what is it called? Photo carve work, I guess, with that CNC. And for those of you who, when she said the original Sidewinder, she's talking about one of the metal ones like you see in my videos in the back of my shop. So in fact, she got the last one of those that I made. So okay, next we have Richard Moller.
Hi all guys, name's Rich Moller. I have a YouTube channel called Shadetree CNC. You can find me on Facebook under Shadetree CNC, as well as Instagram. My Gmail is shadetreecnc@gmail.com, and I'm an automation engineer by trade, so this was kind of a challenge for me. I've been doing the mechanical side of design for about 35 years, and I've never done any electrical stuff. And so this was my electrical challenge, to build a CNC and get it working.
Very good. Yeah, and you built 2 of them, I think, right, Richard?
Yeah, I just posted my second one on Facebook channel just a couple days ago. I noticed that you'd commented.
Yeah, yeah, okay. All right, and then finally here we have a CNC wannabe, Russ Meadows. Tell us where we can find you, Russ.
Yeah, you can find me on Facebook under my name, and my Facebook page, Rusty Nails with a Z, Woodshop, and I am a CNC wannabe in the worst kind of way.
Yeah, and I will say too, I mean, a lot of people probably already know Russ from seeing him on Russell Claridy's show, but and there's Russell Clarity as I speak. Hey, Russ.
Hey,
but anyway,
next to me.
Russ Meadows is really pretty sharp on a scroll saw, so I know he's probably wanting the CNC to facilitate that a little bit too. So
I sure
anyway,
am.
good to have you on here, Russ.
Thank you.
And finally, we now have Russell Clarity has joined us, and I believe you're another CNC wannabe. Is that right, Russ?
Yes, I'm a wannabe. I want one so bad I can't stand it, but unfortunately, I had some money saved up, but when I went to the show in Atlanta, that drill press that I wanted looked so fantastic, and then they made me like $200 off of it, the regular price, so I couldn't refuse it. I had to bring it home.
Yeah, I know those wood shows can do that to you.
I tried to get him. I tried to hold him back, but he's too strong.
Yep.
Okay, anyway, folks, for those of you who are watching, and it looks like we've got, 56 viewers right now. That's awesome. I just want to say kind of one of the reasons I wanted to do this show is, to kind of break things down a little bit and make it simple, or at least try to make it simple. And use this show to have the different panel members and everybody, and even the people in the chat, share some ideas and tips and things. I've been doing CNC stuff a long time, but, when somebody asks me a question about, let's say, like, I don't know, that the software that runs on Linus, what is that, EMC, I think, or something like that, I don't know anything about that. I only know the stuff that I've done over the years, and I'm the type of person that if I get on something and it works, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's the way I work. So I've been using those Xylotex kits for years. I've been accused of being a salesman for that company, but it's only because they work every time right out of the box is why I like to recommend them. They're easy, plug and play, that kind of stuff. But yeah, that's why I wanted to do this show, to try to discuss CNC and just try to make it easy and answer a lot of questions. I know CNC is kind of hot right now. A lot of people getting into it. I've been putting out those plans for the plywood CNC that's like behind Mark Lindsay there that you saw for 2 years, and the questions I get really have never let up. I mean, I get questions and emails all the time, and it's kind of this, I won't say the same questions, but a lot of the same questions over and over. So I thought, well, what better way to try to get some of those questions answered is to do a live show like this with some audience participation and stuff like that. So pretty excited about doing this. I hope y'all enjoy it. And it looks like it's going great. We got 57 viewers right now, so it looks like we're off to a good start. But anyway, let's. Anybody got anything they want to talk about right off the bat here? Y'all don't jump in at once now.
Hey Dave, I was curious when we all did our introductions. Nobody said where they're from. I was curious as where everybody's from.
Oh, okay. Well, let's. Well, I don't know how you want to do this. I know Braxton, you're out in Vegas, right? And
Yep,
Juan, I believe you're in Dallas.
Yep.
And let's see if I can remember everybody. Mark, you're in Medford, Oregon. Is that correct?
Yes, sir. Medford, Oregon.
Okay. Richard, I know he's in what, San Jose, California? And Russ Meadows is somewhere in Texas. You'll have to help me
Beaumont.
there. Beaumont, Texas, okay. And Russell Claridy is Mulberry, Florida, I think, right? Okay.
Mulberry, Florida.
Mulberry, Florida. Okay, now Melinda, you tell everybody where you're from.
I'm from Georgia, if you can't tell by listening to me. I live probably, about 20 minutes from Dave.
Yeah, she's in Stockbridge, Georgia, and I'm in McDonough, so it's about 20, 30 minutes maybe, depending on traffic, just to get to her house or her shop or whatever. Okay, let's have a look over here in the chat, see if we've got any questions going on over there. Okay, Gary Darby says, what do folks actually use their CNC for beyond making spindle mounts? Okay, let's just let's go down the line here. And Braxton, you just showed some stuff right before we went live there. What are you using that X-Carve for?
Well, I'm brand new to it. I'm still getting the feel of it. So I've been doing a lot of just logos, really. You know, here I got a bunch of tests, and I kind of wrote down this was at this speed, at this depth, and blah, 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 to try to get everything dialed in. So lots of logo work so far. I have a couple customers who I'm doing some things for. There's a tap handle that actually turned on my lathe, but also used on the CNC. So I engraved their logo into it with the CNC before I turned it. Then I turned it on the lathe, and I actually used spray paint inside there to darken it up.
Yeah, very cool. And I wanted to make a comment too. I think that's pretty neat that you're, since you're new to this, you're writing down your feed rates and stuff like that, because that's one of the questions I always get a lot is somebody will, send me an email and say, well, what feed rate and depth of cut should I use for, whatever, and it's hard to answer that because, for one, I need to know, well, what kind of machine have you got? Have you got something that's really beefy and stout, or are you got, a lightweight machine like an X-Carve or something like that? There's just so many variables that really the best thing to do is just tell them to start out shallow and start out slow, and then speed it up until it starts, chattering a little bit, and then back it off about 10 or 15%. So, but it also depends on the material too. Whether, if it's something soft like pine, or are you doing maple or whatever, there's just so many variables. It's hard to answer that question, and people, will just say, well, what should I cut this at? Well, I don't really know how to answer that. So,
Dave,
okay,
one question over here on YouTube real quick. I hate to interrupt, but if it scrolls, we wait too long, it'll scroll by and I won't be able to ask you. You recommend, or is there any free G-code programs out there, G-code slicing programs out there? Do you recommend any, or is there any free ones out there?
Well, as I was yesterday, I had a little time, and I thought, well, let me try to prepare some notes for the show. So I just kind of thought, as a, pretending that I am brand new to this, and I went to Google and I put in Hobby CNC router just to see what kind of stuff would come up. And, I can see why people would get confused when they first start thinking about getting into this, because there's so much to choose from, and you don't know really what's good and what's not. But as far as now he was asking for a G-code. I think you're muted, Russ.
Yeah, it was Frank Condon, and he called it a G-code slicing software. If that makes sense, I don't.
Okay, I'm not sure what he's asking, unless he's just asking for a program that would generate G-code. And I assume there's probably some free stuff out there. I don't know. Anybody on the panel got a take on that?
Yeah, Dave.
Yeah, go ahead,
Richard here. Yeah, typically when people talk about slicing programs, they're talking about 3D building machines rather than
okay, yeah.
additive machines rather than subtractive machines, if you want to classify them. So there are what you're talking about is the architecture. You're usually starting from an STL program, and you're slicing that so that it can be built from bottom up on a 3D printer.
I see.
And what I think, if you're into CNC subtractive, there are a number of programs out there that are for free. SketchUp is one. Everyone's kind of getting used to SketchUp, and there's a plugin for SketchUp that will generate G-code. So you can start off with that.
The software that you're talking about is ArtCam. ArtCam, ARTCAM. Have you ever heard of that?
There's a program called MakerCam. That's it's a web-based program. It's almost identical to Easel, except you don't have to go to Inventables to run it. It's very rudimentary as far as being able to draw in it. I get frustrated really easy. So then the next step up from that, I believe there's a free version of Fusion 360 that will give you a CAD program and also generates G-code.
That's great information there, Richard. You know, that's one reason why I wanted you on the panel, is because I know you know a lot of that stuff, and I am so old school when it comes to that stuff. Like I said, I use what I use, and I never try anything new because it always works. You know, I've always modeled stuff in SolidWorks simply because that's what I've used at work. You know, in my sheet metal job, and of course I use Vectric VCarve Pro, and I've been using that for ever since I really got started. Into the CNC thing. So I haven't really tried anything else to know about it, and so I'm glad you were on here to answer that question. But now I understand what you mean with the slicing now. Yeah, I know what you mean now, because it's kind of like I guess Aspire does that, but that's obviously not free. Okay.
Well, I'm definitely jealous of anyone that's got VCarve Pro, so I can't afford it.
Yeah, well, I use VCarve Pro myself, and I got that on Dave's recommendation. And yes, it is pricey. The full version of VCarve Pro is right at $700. But when you figure what it does for you, you can sell a sign for $150, 5 signs, and you've got your software paid for. And then save your pennies and move on up to something a little bit better. There are a lot of free options out there, and I tell everybody that asks me, just download a few. Almost all of them have free trials. Download it, try it, see what you like, because the only way to tell what the best software is the best software is the one you're comfortable with. So try the free trial, see what you think, and if you don't like it, move on to the next.
Yeah, excuse me, Richard. That's one thing that's always been good about Vectric, is you can download a free trial version of all of their stuff, even the cheap Cut 2D and all the way up to Aspire, and basically you can test drive it, kick the tires, and see if it does what you need it to do. And and then purchase it, and basically they just send you the license file and make it a full-blown version. But
so Dave, you generate your programs in like VCarve Pro, and then do you export that to Mach 3?
Well, the VCarve Pro has a long list of post processors. I mean, they'll do ShopBot, CamMaster, the list goes on and on. I don't even know how many there's on there now, but the post processor that I use is one that's just called Mach 3. I think it's called arcs and then inches. You can do it in metric, or I see Juan over there shaking his head. That might be what you use too. I don't know. But so it just you select the post processor you want, and then when you calculate the file, I think is the button they call it. Anyway, it'll go through and simulate it and generate that text file that's suited for that machine. Of course, mine's it's just a simple Mach 3 text file is what I use.
Right. Okay, because I use SolidWorks like you do at work, and there's a free plugin called HMS Express, and it will generate G code. So that's what I do. Is I basically save out a standard text file, and then just load it into Mach 3.
Yeah, I've like when I draw something in SolidWorks for my personal use here, of course I like to model things up just because that's what I've always done, for the past 10 years. But then once I'm sure of the fit and everything, I usually just just export or do a save as and save it as a DXF file, and then bring that into VCarve Pro and then put the toolpath and stuff on it there. Russ, somebody got another question over there?
Yes, I know the answer to this one, but I'm going to let y'all answer it. It says, what software allows you to have a longer board than your CNC cutting area? For example, if I have an 18-inch long board for my CNC, but yet I want to cut a 48-inch long sign, what software allows me to do that?
Okay, well, I'll let you guys chime in too, but I know for sure that VCarve Pro will do it. I'm sure Aspire does it as well, and I think they call that a tile function. Is that what they call it? Really, any software you could probably do it. If you have a little bit of knowledge about G codes and stuff, you can figure out how to take the program and just use what your machine will reach and then index it. I mean, with a little imagination, you could do it pretty much with any software, but a lot of software like VCarve Pro and Aspire make it easy for you because of the the tiling feature in there. You knew the answer to that, Russ?
Mm-hmm. The reason I do is because me and we were talking about it a while back about the different, when I was talking about the size of the machines and what I wanted, and you said, well, when I mentioned that same thing about if I want to make a sign, you said, well, just tile it. You'll learn how to do it. VCarve.
Okay. I've forgotten we talked about that. Okay, so is there anybody on the panel here that has actually done that, run something that's bigger than their machine capacity, and Okay, Richard.
I haven't done it yet, but I'm getting ready to.
Okay. Richard, I saw you shaking your head over there.
Yeah, I usually do it in SolidWorks, basically divide it into two different segments. But when I met you in Atlanta, I suggested a website for some free software for folks, and that was scorchworks.com.
Yeah.
I just pulled up their website on my phone, and they've got a program there called G-Code Ripper. It will read, scale, rotate, split, and wrap around a cylinder any G-code file. And it's free.
Yeah. I remember our discussions about that, and I have downloaded that F-engrave that you told me about.
That's correct. That's also on the website.
I tell you, I've had all kinds of computer problems. I had a big lightning strike that just really jacked up all kinds of stuff. My cable modem, my wireless router, my desktop had even messed that up. So I'm just now recovering from all that, but I haven't had a chance to play around with that F-engrave. But I want to do that because that again, that's one of the questions that I always get is when people are just starting to get into CNC, they the machine's just part of it. The software is a whole other ball game, and sometimes they don't realize to get really good software, you're paying in some cases as much as you are for your machine.
Yeah, this guy puts out 3 different programs. Basically, it's the F-engrave, which will do engraving as well as V-carving. He puts out the G-Code Ripper, which is what I just described. And then he puts out another one called DMAP to Code, and it'll take any color or grayscale image and generate G-code for that, so that you can do three-dimensional carving.
Mm-hmm.
All of which are all free.
Yeah. So
now I've used both of them, and they run pretty well.
Okay, well, good. So if any of y'all out there watching this, you might want to check that out, and that's Scorchworks, scorchworks.com, I think you said.
Scorchworks.com. If you go to Facebook and search for Scorchworks, he does a complete product demonstration of all of his products. So you can actually get examples of how to set up the code and what it looks like. He does all kinds of engraving, as well as inlays as well. He teaches you how to do inlays as well using VCarve Pro.
Very good, very good. Okay, so I heard somebody say something.
Yeah. Also, they can, get creative as far as if they use the VCarve software, the web-based one, is you could always just cut their drawing. I mean, they obviously got to draw it, cut it in 2 pieces, 3 pieces. Just know what your safe area is in your machine, and set yourself a point where you could put a dowel pin, or of course, square it off to 2 points.
Yeah.
And it's just a matter of creativity.
And that's a good point, Juan, because that's exactly what I've done before, is use my machine to just come down and put me a hole where I can put a spot, and I know that I always need to go back to that spot, and then I put, like you say, square something up with just take a board or something where I can slide it against that board so that I know it stays square to the axis there. And you can play around, and you can really make some really big things with a really small machine if you use your head a little bit and figure it out. But now, Juan, I wanted to ask you. I've seen you post a lot of stuff on Facebook, and I think I even caught a glimpse of that flash thing you were making recently. Didn't I see that maybe there somewhere? Yeah, there it is.
It's on my wall.
Yeah. Now, are you using VCarve Pro?
I am.
With that machine and Mach 3, I guess, too?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah, that. I think, I don't know. I know there's some other stuff out there. Like I said, when I Googled it the other day just to try to see what else was out there, I saw some stuff that's called EMC2, and from what I can understand, that's free, but it runs on Linux. And, again, I don't know anything about that. But I know Mach 3 seems to be very popular, and it's reasonably inexpensive, I guess. It's $175, if you buy the licensed version. And I remember when I first started playing around with CNC, just to show you how crazy I am, I don't know what the limit is now, the lines of code limit, but it used to be like, 1,000 lines of code was the limit on the demo version. And I would actually use the software that we used at work to program a laser, and I would get it to generate the code, and then I would take that file, and of course it's way too long to run, but I would go through and edit it, and it's 500 lines now, okay, but I would go and kind of break it up into a bunch of different programs, so I could still run a huge file. I just had to run it 5 or 6 files maybe to do it, but this just because I was too cheap to buy the licensed version when I was just getting started. But anyway, Mach 3 is pretty good. I think I'd be willing to bet that anybody that's running a CNC except for Braxton there with his X-Carve is probably running Mach 3. I know Melinda is. Richard's shaking his head. Mark's shaking his head. Yeah. So you're the lone wolf out there, Braxton, with that Arduino stuff. Tell us about that. Talk about that a little bit, Braxton. Talk about your trials and tribulations of an X-Carve.
I don't know Arduino from a Schmarduino, to be honest with you. I don't know. I just plugged it in and started working. I just use easel And like I design, mostly I've been doing logos. I've never tried to cut any, make any pieces or parts or anything. So I do all my work in Photoshop, and then I use Inkscape to turn it into a SVG, and then upload it to Easel and play with it in there, make it bigger or smaller, or whatever I need to do. But so far, I mean, I wouldn't know the difference between anything. So right now it seems to be working good for me.
But now, how long have you had that X card?
Maybe 2 weeks,
Wow.
3 weeks.
Well, so I guess you didn't really have any issues with the assembly or anything like that?
You know what? I didn't even have to put it together. It was pretty much all the way put together when I got it from the guy.
Oh, okay. I see.
Yeah,
I thought maybe
I got it from another fellow. He brought it down to me. It was basically put together. I had to run the wires. I had to get the belts all tightened up and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And then get a new. I got a 611 for it and installed that. But I mean, so far it's been working good.
Yeah.
Hey,
Well,
Braxton,
Mm-hmm.
did you know that Inkscape also has the ability to generate G-code directly?
I had no idea. And then I heard you mention there's a G-code plugin for Sketchup. So I've been, as you guys have been talking, I've got notes open on my computer. I'm just writing stuff down here, trying to.
Yeah, if you've got one of the newer versions of Inkscape, I think it's under the General pull-down tab. There's a couple tabs to actually set up and run G-code. Yeah, it's got a G-code generator built into it.
Nice.
Yeah, I've seen that generator on there as well.
Yeah, that's another thing I want to try to do is I'm going to try to make myself learn SketchUp. I've been a SolidWorks user for, I don't know, 9 or 10 years now or something like that, and every time I open up SketchUp and start to play around with it, I don't know, I just get frustrated because it's not, I know SolidWorks like the back of my hand, but I don't know anything about SketchUp, so I may have to get with Jay Bates and get him to tutor me or something. I hear he's pretty good at it, but
yeah, you mentioned Jay Bates. I would recommend watching his tutorials. He makes some fantastic tutorials. But if you're used to using SolidWorks, going back to SketchUp would be like putting the training wheels back on your bike.
Exactly.
yeah, and I guess that's why every time I open it up and start playing around with it, I don't, usually not on there for more than 10 or 15 minutes, and I go, let me go do it in SolidWorks, But okay, what else we got in the chat over there, Russ?
Can you cut faces or uneven surfaces with the V-Carve Pro 8? In other words, I'm guessing what they have is like you have an eagle, which has wings and feathers and stuff, and they're wanting to carve it all out. Will V-Carve Pro 8 do that?
Who has V-Carve Pro 8 on here? I'm still at 7.5 myself.
Yes, it will. It will to a certain point. You cannot. It doesn't model the face, so you have to have the model from something else, from another program, whether it be Cut 3D or Photo VCarve. Because VCarve Pro is not made for 3D modeling. That's in Aspire, the top-of-the-line software. But if you have a file that was created in Aspire, or, oh boy, it'll import several different types of 3D programs. But yes, it will cut 3D models, faces and what have you.
So you could probably, if you drew something up in even SolidWorks, and then saved it as an STL file,
I believe it will import an STL. In fact, I think that's the one they prefer. But it'll also do OBJ files, and I can't remember what the one from Rhino is. I believe it imports them as well. I'm not, but don't quote me on that.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I've used that also. There's a free software for litho. I believe they call it Lithofane. And that's for the pictures. And if you, whatever picture it is, if you put it into the software, it'll take out an STL in 3D, and you could also import it into VCarve Pro, and it'll basically carve it out. You can manipulate the Z as far as bring it up or take it down, but that also is a good little trick, is using that lithophane. I don't know if I'm pronouncing it right, but
You're pronouncing it right. And in fact, Vectric Software makes Photo VCarve, which I have, just for making lithophanes. It runs about $150, but it does a better job than Aspire as far as I'm concerned. So the plugins are there, the software is out there, and Photo VCarve is not really expensive, and it does the job real well.
Yeah, yeah. Melinda is what I call the resident expert with Photo VCarve. She's done a lot of those things, and it really, I mean, if you go watch the video where I did the shop tour with her, we show several of those, and I tell you, this girl has got it down. She knows how to do those better than anybody I've ever seen. So hopefully when we can work out a scheduling thing, I want to do a spotlight on Melinda and have her talk about the photo VCarve and her process of how she finishes and all that, because I know, you know, I don't know exactly how she does it, but I know there's a lot of steps, and I don't have the patience for it, so I don't do it. But she has done a great job on some of that stuff, and I want to have her a spotlight on this show and talk about that. Okay, Melinda, you're not even going to say anything?
Well, you kind of said it all.
Okay. You don't happen to have anything handy you can show right quick, do you?
That's another question. Somebody on the YouTube asked if there's anybody that has some stuff that they can show that they've actually cut on their CNC.
I'd have to take a quick break. Mine are in the living room, but it wouldn't take but a second.
Okay, we'll go grab something and we'll show it off here.
All right.
Anybody else have any of their handiwork there? I know Juan's got some stuff hanging on the wall back there, and
let me see if I could walk this camera around.
Yeah, very cool.
Dust collection. Do you use a can you use a shop vac, or would you recommend that, or would you recommend a actual dust collection system or whatever when you're using your CNC?
I personally, I've used a little old shop vac that I've had. I don't know how old that thing is. It's probably 15 years old and it's still working good. But I used to hook that up to my machine. And it works great. I made a little dust shoe, I guess you call it. Kind of, it's just out of a couple of pieces of wood. You know, when you're using like most routers, like I use a Porter Cable 690 on mine, and you know the air comes in the top of the router and it blows out the bottom. So you have to really get effective dust collection. You got to figure out a way to get that air that's coming out of the bottom of the router to go somewhere else. So I use my machine to mill a pocket, and then it's got a channel going out the side. So when I put that bottom plate on, it kind of catches the air coming out of the bottom of the router and pushes it out the side. And then I've got like a little plastic skirt material I bought from McMaster Carr. I think it's the stuff they use for, you know, to hang in doorways while like forklifts going through and stuff. Just bought some strips of that and cut it up and made a little skirt. And it's pretty effective. I mean, it's better than nothing. But most of the time, when I'm out there running my machine, a lot of times I don't even use that thing because, especially if I'm shooting video, because you can't see anything if you've got it covered up. So if you're shooting video, I kind of leave it off where people can see it cut. And then in other cases, I have if anybody's seen my machine, I'll get where I can do these shows out from my shop, and you'll be able to see it. But I've got like just some really cheap panels that I made with some 1/8 inch Lexan to just kind of wrap around 3 sides of my machine. So even when I'm not running dust collection, it all stays relatively on the table or just around the sides. A little bit might come out the front on the floor there, but it doesn't take us, much to vacuum it up. But it is good to run dust collection when you're running MDF, because MDF is terrible to breathe. That's
what I wanted to ask you that, because when in some of your videos, I saw the machine behind you, and you looked like you had it in an enclosure.
Yeah,
and, I thought that might be for the dust.
Well, it is, but it's really I had some 1/8 inch Lexan from work that they were going to throw away. I mean, big pieces. So what I did is I just took some like 2x2s, and I made a couple of little panels, and they basically just set on the table, and I've got little hooks to hook them together. And so after a certain amount of time, I have to take them off at least one side, and where I can get the shop vac behind the machine to get all that dust back there, because it'll pile up pretty quick in the back there when I'm not running a dust collection. But yeah, it's not really it's just a kind of a shield. It's not really an enclosure because there's no top on it or anything.
Right.
And it just kind of contains the router dust and all. Keeps it in a little area where it's easier to vacuum up.
Hmm.
What about you, Richard? Do you use a form of dust collection on yours, or?
Right here, hanging on the wall, right behind my finger,
Okay.
is one of those Harbor Freight dust collectors,
Mm-hmm.
and its input goes right into a dust deputy, and so the hose basically runs from the router up over the ceiling and down into the dust deputy.
Okay. Now, do you have like a dust shoe or something that you put on there as
Yes,
well, or?
I certainly do.
Okay. And what do you use for your skirt? I've seen people use different things, and mine isn't real effective. The stuff I use, I just wondered if there's something that you're using that might be. Is it brushes? Okay.
Yep, plain ordinary brushes.
Yeah.
You buy this stuff at McMaster Car. It's got an aluminum strip, basically. You can't really see it really well, but down in here, so you just cut out your pocket and then take a couple pair of pliers and bend that aluminum around until it fits in a 1/4 inch groove. Just glue it in.
Okay. Anybody else on the panel use any kind of a dust shoe?
I'm getting ready to make one, and based on the drawing that you sent me, kind of a copy of the one you made. And
Okay.
but other than that, I'm just going to be using a small shop vac as well. So.
Yeah. I found it, just like I said, I think that shop vac I got is I don't know, 6 gallon or something. It's pretty small, and like I said, it's really old too. But I found that that's enough to pull it away pretty good with my little router anyway.
Yeah, if you can afford it, spend the $35 and buy a dust deputy. That way it'll keep your filter clean and you won't lose vacuum when you start pulling dust into it.
Yeah, good idea.
Yep.
I built one of those top hat separator things, so that really helps because I just have it sitting on a trash can, and now when I am running the vacuum, I don't have to empty it near as often as I used to have to. So that works really good.
Yeah, the Clearview vacuum, or what is it? The CV66 or whatever it is. That their small cyclone looks like it would fit on the top of a bucket as well. So.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Starter bits. What do you recommend for starter bits? Where do you get them? What kind?
Sharp ones.
Sharp ones.
Sharp ones. Harbor Freight. Harbor Freight. They're like $9 for 3.
Well, everybody's got their opinion on router bits and stuff like that, and I don't know. I've bought stuff from Lowe's, and it just seems like the little kits where you get the bunch of different router bits and stuff, and it just seems like to me you get what you pay for. If you're not paying very much for them, they'll cut, but they're not going to cut for very long. They dull quick and all that. I personally like to spend my money on CMT, Freud, and Whiteside is pretty much the 3 brands I use. Anybody else want to chime in there?
As far as starter bits, what kind of bits to get when you're just starting out, I hate to make it sound like a cop-out, but it just depends on what you're going to cut. If you're just going to cut shapes out of sheet goods, I too have gone down to Lowe's, and I've got the Bosch downcut and upcut straight mortising bits. Just their 1/4 inch. I really like the downcut spiral mortising bit, and it's actually more expensive than some of the specialty bits, but they work great for that. You're not going to do 3D modeling with it, but if you're just cutting out shapes, it works fantastic. I've heard a lot of good things about the CMT 90-degree V-bits. I don't have one. I'm using the Bosch 90-degree V-bit from Lowe's, and it works great. Other than that, the only other things that I have bought bit-wise, eBay. I've bought some 1/8 inch flat end mills and some 1/8 inch ball nose end mills, and they came on the slow boat from Asia. But when you're talking about $13 for a set of 5 solid carbide, it was worth the wait, and they seem to work very, very well. But as far as just cutting out 2D shapes for like a new gantry for this, for example, my go-to is that downcut Bosch straight mortising bit. I mean, it's never failed me yet.
Yeah, and you make a good point there, Mark, because it really depends on what you're going to use. You know, I have a bunch of different bits, but probably 99% of the time I'm just using just a 1/4 inch, either an upcut, a downcut, or just a straight cutter. You know, just that's kind of what I use when I'm just cutting out 2D shapes and stuff like that. I do have, if I'm cutting out or doing some V-carve work, the 90-degree V-bits, I have those in both a 1/2 inch diameter and a 1/4 inch diameter. You know, I also have 60-degree V-bits in a 1/2 inch diameter. I've got a bowl bit that I used occasionally. But yeah, you don't really need a whole lot of bits to start out, or at least I don't think, because it just depends on what you're going to do. If you're going to do signage and stuff with VCarve Pro, then obviously you're going to need some kind of a V-bit, either 90-degree, 60-degree, something like that. But you're still probably going to need, you know, either an upcut or downcut or straight cutter bit to part it out.
Yeah,
Well, that's a question that I got is concerning that. I'm not familiar with the upcut and the downcut. I don't even know what they do. What's the difference in them? But the question, a lot of people might not know either, so I'm good to ask that one. But the question that I have is concerning the straight cutters. I bought the other day, because I've got a cross I'm trying to learn how to carve out instead of cutting out with a scroll saw. And I bought two straight cut bits. I bought a 3/16 bit and a 1/8 straight cut. And I come back to the house and I tried them in my little router and to see how they would work. And when I looked at it, they don't cut very well. Those were a single flute, and the 1/4 inch bit that I had straight cut was a double flute, and it cut pretty good. But the single flute didn't cut worth a crap. It was terrible. And I didn't know if the number of flutes only made a difference, or what, because it didn't pan out for me. So I'm about to take them back and try something else.
That's one of the questions over here in the on YouTube also, is how many flutes for cutting wood? Is there an amount?
Hallelujah.
Generally speaking, I hope you don't mind me diving in here. Generally speaking, everything I have is a 2-flute bit, with one exception. I've used one 4-flute bit, and if you like to make smoke and start fires, that's the way to do it. They overheat real quick in wood. Just a standard 2-flute bit. I've got a little Bosch straight cutter bit right here, 2-flute, 1/4 inch. That works like a champ. I use, you're talking about the difference in the upcut spiral versus the downcut spiral. Looks like this, and basically the difference is it's sharpened to where it will either cut the chips and eject them upwards out away from the bit, or cut the chips and force them downwards away from the bit. So when it plunges down into plywood, it doesn't lift up that top edge.
Yeah, I think, don't they also call that a compression bit when it's going down cut?
Yeah, there are also compression bits, but I've never used one. I don't know. I don't have one. So, but bits, generally speaking, if it doesn't have a bearing on it, you can use it on the CNC. I mean, I use a 1¼ inch straight mortising bit to surface my spoil board. So, there are a few exceptions, but if it doesn't have a guide bearing down on the bottom of it, and it can center plunge, it can plunge straight in, you can use it on a CNC.
Okay.
So, and you just have to experiment and see what works for you, because what you're cutting does make a difference. Pardon?
Yeah, 2 flutes. I'll do straight 2D work. I haven't done anything else until I got to this. Yeah, until I got to this cross that I'm looking at, and that's just carving. It's not cutting completely through, and so I'm kind of at a loss as to how to proceed on that, because what I'm trying is not working.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I don't know what kind of RPM you're turning on your router or what have you, but
yeah.
Generally speaking, the 2-flute is the one that I want, the one, my go-to.
Variable speed router helps a lot.
Yeah, it does.
Is that a variable speed you have on yours, Juan?
It is.
And I do too.
Okay, yeah. You know, when I first, the first GarageWorks little 24x18 that I built, I purposely wanted to use a DeWalt 611 just because I know a lot of people were going to immediately be doing comparisons with X-Carves. So I wanted to kind of have apples to apples. And I put a 611 on there, and I liked it because it was variable speed. But the first time I went to run a test cut with the thing, it quit working on me. You turn it on and run for like 3 seconds and then quit. So I don't know, maybe I just got a lemon. I mean, I know there's a ton of them out there on X-Carves, and they must be good. So I ended up getting a Porter Cable 450, which you look at it, it looks exactly like the 611, just a different color, but it doesn't have the variable speed.
And you would say that even for the CNC that variable speed is what you need?
It's pretty helpful if you can get it. Now, like I said, I have never used one variable speed. The higher end Porter Cable, I think it's the, what is it, Mark, 7518 or 892, I think is a variable
yeah, I'm
speed
running
too.
the 892, but only because that was the router that I had that would actually separate from the base, and it's variable speed. I tend to run it around 16,000 to 20,000 RPMs, but only to keep the bits cooler so they don't overheat. The smaller Porter cables are single speed, and I believe some of them, like the 690, runs at about 27,000 RPM.
Yeah, that's what I've always ran it, and one reason why I do like those, even though they're not variable speed, is if you're in the middle of a job and all of a sudden the thing craps out, it's a 5-minute trip to Lowe's to get another one, because they're very common, the 690s. Everybody sells those.
Yeah.
So, in fact, I've got about 3 of them in my shop now. I got one on my router table, one on my CNC, and then I keep another one just for hand routing. And that came in handy because the other day I was out there and one of them crapped out. And I think I've got a new set of brushes that just came in today. I think it was just the brushes, but you know, you never know when they're going to quit. So it's good to have another one around.
You know my attitude with Porter cable routers. I'm very partial to them. I've got the 892 on here now, but I will be switching out to a 690. The 892 is just, it's more router than I need on this, and it's basically, it's very heavy, and it is, as you say, the 690. If you do burn up your brushes, you can run down to Lowe's, grab another one, then rebuild them with another $12 set of brushes.
Yeah.
But you keep that motor blown out, you keep it clean, and you change the brushes when you need. I personally know people that are using 30-year-old Porter cable routers every day in full production shops.
And you know, if anybody's ever watched one of my videos, and I'll ask the panel here if any of y'all have seen it, you know what I'm talking about. If you look on the top of my router, what's on the top of my router? I bet you somebody here can answer it.
A rag.
Indian.
It's a piece of T-shirt.
Yeah, I take a piece of T-shirt, and then I've got just like a little cable tie, and that you'd be amazed when especially when you're cutting MDF and stuff, because like I said, the air is sucking in the top of that router and blowing it out the bottom. Well, that T-shirt material just acts like a little filter, and you just take it off, and I'll just hold a corner of it, take the shop vac, and let it suck up the shop vac, and then take it and put it right back on. So I feel like I can get a lot of miles out of my routers because of that. There's no chunks or a minimal amount of dust going in there.
Neat idea.
Although they still wear out the brushes. Can't help that. And to me though, and Mark, I'm sure you'll agree, I'm amazed sometimes because I've run cycle times, 5-6 hours at a time, and those routers aren't designed to be on that long. They're really not.
I can't speak for the 690 because I'll be honest with you, I've never owned a 690. I've had this 892 for years, but I have used the big 3.5 horse jobbies, and I mean, using in a solid surface countertop shop, routing Corian and Avenite and things like that 40 hours a week, and you just can't kill them. I mean, yeah, you'll go through brushes. Occasionally you'll go through a bearing, but the parts are readily available, and they're right there, and it's an easy fix. So I can't say enough about Porter cable routers. I'm very biased.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of Porter cable too. Like I said, I'm just old school. If I get something that works, it's a hard time to get me to change to something else.
Real quick question, does anyone use steel angle instead of aluminum angle on the CNC router on a shoestring budget?
I get asked that quite a bit, and it doesn't really matter. If really, I mean, if somebody wants to put steel angle on there, they can. I just feel like, because I've been in the sheet metal business a long time, I just feel like when you get aluminum angle, it's a little bit straighter and more true than the steel. Yeah. And and I think a lot of people got questions about where it's going to wear out quicker and stuff like that. Maybe, but I just feel like it's straighter and more true than the steel. The steel isn't. A lot of times it's not that straight, and it's a lot harder to bend it to get it back straight. Where the aluminum, you're lining it up with that edge of the plywood, you can get it lined up pretty good. So, but I mean, it doesn't matter if somebody wants to buy. And the other question I always get, Russ, is they'll say, "Well, do you get the rounded, kind, or do you get the kind that's square, squared off or whatever?" That doesn't matter either, because eventually that stuff's going to wear to the V-groove bearing. So, which will really make it more accurate once it does that. So, doesn't really matter.
I've been running this one back here for a year, and I haven't noticed anywhere. So.
Well, it's funny because you say that, because I get people that say they've been running it for a couple of months and they're noticing a lot of wear, and they want to know if they should put steel on it. And I'm like, yeah, you running the thing day and night or something? I just can't believe it would wear that quickly.
And how tight did you tighten up your bearings? Is that having to drag that back and forth, or is
yeah, maybe so. I don't know, but yeah, I just feel like a little wear on that aluminum is a good thing, because like I said, it'll take the shape of that V-groove bearing, and then it'll be more accurate. You just have to keep tightening it up till you get to that point. But yeah, steel, aluminum, whatever you want to put on it.
Has anybody tried using a variable speed switch on a router instead of the variable speed router?
You know, I bought one of those. I think I got it from Harbor Freight years ago, and I never took it out of the box, and it's out in my garage somewhere. I haven't found it, so I can't say. I never have tried putting it on. I don't know if anybody else on the panel may have. Richard, how about you? Have you done it?
Yep, got one on my control panel, Harbor Freight one.
Do they work good?
Well, I've got a machine shop at work, and I had the guy take one of the Harbor Freight replacement drill chucks that you can buy for the drill, and I had him turn down a collar on it so that it would fit my router, and then I used that Harbor Freight speed reducer so that I can put standard drills in my router and drill all my holes in my panels, so
Okay.
that.
So what kind of speed are you getting when you slow it down?
I'm guessing probably around 1,000 RPM.
Wow. Okay.
I mean, it's barely turning.
Wow. I'll have to go out in the garage to try to find that thing then, I guess.
Yeah, because I'm using the standard Harbor Freight $56 2.5 horsepower router, and it's kind of like the Porter can't talk.
Porter cable.
Porter cable copy, yeah.
Yeah.
But would that not damage something that's not designed to be going that slow from the start? Possibly.
Actually, if you're using a variable speed router, you don't want to use a variable speed control on it. But this is a standard router, and it's one speed, and so they recommend using that very same controller on it.
Well, that's what I was wondering, is though if it's not designed to go at a different speed, I was wondering, by using that variable speed switch on it, would that cause damage to the machine, to the router itself, if it's not designed to do something different?
Well, it really depends on how the voltage is regulated. If you're reducing the voltage, then your amperage is going to go up, and it's going to overheat your motor. But what's inside this box is kind of like a chopper circuit, so it's electronically shortening the frequency so it stays at a constant voltage. But because the frequency is shorter, it doesn't have the energy to spin it up as fast. So it runs cool, basically, is all I can say.
Did any of y'all understand that? I did.
You wouldn't lose any power?
Yeah, well, yes, you certainly do lose power because you're cutting down the amount of voltage at 110 volts, but the duration of time is shorter.
Gotcha.
So
it basically, like you said, it would work great when you're trying to use drill bits or something like that.
Yes,
something that needs to be slower.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
But you haven't noticed any cooling problems with the router with it running at such slow speeds?
Nope, not at all.
Great.
Yeah, you've convinced me, Richard, to go on a hunt now and find one, because I've got one out in the garage somewhere, and it's probably in a drawer or something, but I haven't seen it in years, but I know it's still out there.
It's only $20.
Yeah, maybe it'd be easier to just go buy another one, huh? Of course, what happens then is I buy another one, and I'll stumble across that one, I'm sure.
That's when you'll find it.
But,
That's how it works.
Okay, guys, we've been here, going on here about an hour or so, just over an hour. Had a good discussion here, I think. I've learned a lot of things. I hope our 61 viewers have as well. But we'll continue this next week, same time, same place, I guess. And I hope, I don't know if we're, well, let's see. It looks like the chat section has been Oops, I done hit something wrong here.
The chat section's still working. The problem I have is y'all keep running your mouth so much I can't answer. I ask all the questions for some reason.
Well, you know,
They're just going to have to come back next week.
yeah, I guess what we need to do is tell people that if they left put a question in the chat and it didn't get answered, to put it down in the comments once this video comes up, and we'll address those. You know, I know how it is because I know when I watch the chat thing for you, Russ. Sometimes it's hard to do. It scrolls so fast; it's hard to keep up with.
Well, that's the reason I got out this piece of paper when I'd see the question. I was writing them down over here so I didn't have to worry about scrolling back.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I want to thank everybody that's on the panel here. Thank you, Braxton, for joining. Best of luck with your X-Carve. I'm happy that it looks like it's working good for you, buddy.
I might need to upgrade to one of yours pretty soon, though. We'll see.
Well, yeah, you can always do that if you want. I'd be happy to sell you one.
All right.
But Juan, thank you for joining us. And again, I have to say that's just an awesome machine you have in the background there.
I concur.
Yes, it is.
And Braxton, don't forget to use my name when you order that CNC so I'll get my commission.
All right. We'll do it.
Yeah. Okay,
He gives a good discount on those X-Carves. Trade-in value.
I got a great discount on mine.
I'll tell you guys something though. As far as being a person that didn't get contacted by somebody or by Dave or anything saying, here's my machine and make videos so you can advertise it, I'm very happy with it. It's a lot of people ask if it's rigid or if it's or how it's been good. It's been good. It cuts great. Of course, you gotta know your speeds and feeds and whatnot, but it's a good machine. I almost bought the X-Carve and I'm glad I didn't.
Yeah. Your check's in the mail, Juan.
Thank you.
It's coming by way of the mailman.
Okay, Mark, thanks for joining us tonight.
Thanks for asking me.
Well, I want to tell the viewers too. Mark is right behind him there. He's got one of the plywood machines that he built from those plans, and I know that I've done those for like 2 years now, or just over 2 years, and the request for those plans really hasn't tapered off at all. I still get 10 to 20 emails a day, people wanting those plans. So I'd like to also do a spotlight with Mark when we can, for him to talk about how how he built that thing, because I get people all the time that say, I send them the plans and they look them over and then they'll go, well, you cut these on a CNC. I just don't think I can do that. And I want Mark to show, living proof that you don't have to have a CNC to make a CNC.
There it is, right there.
It can be done. And of course, once you get it built, then you can use that CNC to recut your parts if you want.
Yeah.
Yeah. But the paper template thing, if you take your time and do it, right there it is, folks. It can be done. Okay. Thanks, Melinda, for joining us tonight. Oh, did you grab some of your stuff? Let's see some of that. Oh yeah.
That is awesome.
Let me click over there.
Wow. That's really cool.
Can't see it.
That's nice. I mean, it looks like a photograph almost. There's so much detail in it.
I got a couple others. This one turned out real good too.
Wow.
I've really had to test with types of wood, types of finish, that kind of thing, because it's all in the finish. That's the big deal.
Please do tell what's the best wood used.
If you're going to start out, the best is maple. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. Get some good, clear, white maple. It's hard. It works good, easy to work with. The sanding is very important too. Very important. Got to sand it to at least a 400 grit, kind of polish the high parts, and then you get the stain to set in the low parts, and it comes out.
Yeah, like I said, folks, I'm going to get Melinda on here to do the whole show, just showing her process and talking about that, because she is really good at that stuff, and it's hard for her to tell what she's doing here in just a few minutes. So we'll make a whole show of her showing that stuff. So okay, Richard, thanks for being on here.
Thank you
Russ,
much for having me.
I appreciate all your input, Richard. Russ, thanks guys. We'll make a CNC guy out of you before long.
Sit him on the other end. We don't want two Russes in the same spot. It's awful tight in here.
Oh, shut up. Yeah, well,
Okay, folks.
but you had to put the better looking Russ on the right.
I am on the right. Thank you.
No, I'm on the right.
Okay, guys. I guess we're gonna call it a show here tonight, and I want to thank y'all for watching. Thanks for some of the great questions, and just like I said, just thanks for coming and hanging out with us here, because we had 60-some viewers there at one time. That's pretty great. So thanks everybody, and we will see you next week, Saturday at 9.
Don't forget to leave a thumbs up down there in the corner.
Exactly. Yeah. Thumbs up, comments, questions.
Subscribe.
Yeah, subscribe if you haven't done that too. Sure.
I'm going to leave a thumbs down.
Well, somebody always does. It might as well be.
So you're that guy.
I swear I can put a video out, and within the first 3 likes there'll be a thumbs down, and it might be the only one. It might be the only one it ever gets, but it's usually really quick. So somebody doesn't like me for sure. I don't know who it is.
Just about every video I put out, always within the first 24 hours there's a thumb down.
Yeah, I mean I don't know. You can't please everybody, I guess. But
Nope.
anyway, thanks guys, and thank y'all for watching. We'll see you next week.
Thanks for having us.
See ya.